All right, here with Tyrel Todd. Ty, first, you've been back for about a month. Tell us about your summer. How was your summer? You spent most of it back in Montana.
I did, yeah. It was a great summer. It was a great summer. Good. After doing a bunch of camps, really took some time. Actually, I was just back home, enjoyed a little time off the mat. Did quite a bit of fly fishing, and we were fixing fence on our family farm, so I spent several weeks digging fence posts and planting railroad ties for fence posts. So it was actually pretty good training
Yeah.
as far as upper body anyways, but it was fun to be home, enjoy the weather. The whole state of Montana is burning up right now, which is kind of crazy, but yeah, it was not, even right now, you hardly want to go outside because there's so much smoke, but it was, when I was back home there in August and end of July, it was pretty good for the most part. Did a little camping, fishing, enjoyable summer, great recharge.
Okay, and you did to stay pretty busy doing camps and clinics, you know, and you just did a clinic yesterday.
Yes.
And you guys are planning on starting up this Cliff King Wrestling Club developmental program. Talk about that a little bit.
This is something that, you know, we've worked pretty closely with Coach Bormet, with Sean Bormet, and then Jake Herbert and Andy Robat have worked together, and I had some input as well, put together an 8-week 16 practice training cycle, and it's really focusing on higher level kids in the state of Michigan, and we're trying to help these kids, you know, break through barriers, and we're focusing on just simple things, you know, great defense, you know, and focusing on scoring when we get to the leg, little things like that, and drills, a lot of drills that Andy picked up. You know, he lived over in Russia there for a year and was training with some of the best wrestlers in the world, and was able to pick up these little, you know, tricks, and really it's a system, a training system that is so, I wish I would have been entrenched in it when I was in high school or even younger. It's incredible. Just improving your gymnastic ability, your flexibility, just all those things you need for wrestling, strength, all those things. And so I'm excited to get some of these Michigan kids, you know, younger kids, junior high through high school, 7 through 12, to really help them develop and become, you know, as elite as they possibly can be, and hopefully, you know, really making themselves the best wrestlers in the state, and doing so, you know, in a dominating fashion. That's kind of our goal, and we're doing it just 2 days a week, Sundays and Wednesdays, from 4:30 to 6:30 at Top Dog Training Gym. It's Sam Amin's gym up in Brighton, Michigan, and so we're going to be going every day with that, and we're starting here. The first practice is the 23rd. So I'm going to be gone here, going to Russia for 3 weeks. Andy's going with me, but we'll have other guys that are going to be here. Kellen Russell's going to be here. Jake Herbert's going to be here. Zach Stevens is going to be helping out, and Kyle Massey. So they're going to be running the workouts in Brighton. And yeah, I'm just getting set to take off here.
All right, so talk about that. You're leaving at the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
To go to Russia for 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking to gain from that experience, and how excited are you to go overseas again?
I'm really excited, and going to Russia for me, you know, my introduction to international wrestling was when I was 7 years old. I watched USA wrestle Russia in Seattle, or excuse me, Spokane. I was out there wrestling in a little kid tournament. It was the only time we ever left the state when we were little kids wrestling. And I had a pretty good tournament. I got second out there. I was so mad because I lost, because all the winners got to meet the USA team, and I was so bummed. And I remember sitting way up in the stands watching with my dad, and being like, that's what I want to do. I want to wrestle, you know, for the U.S. And so this is going to Russia. There's 2 duels, USA versus Russia, and I don't know exactly, you know, who's going to be wrestling in those duels, but we will be wrestling in 2 duels in 2 tournaments. One is in Yakutsk, which is like, looking on a map, it's like, just talking with Chase Pammy, it's 4 time zones from Hawaii, so it's like, it's real, and you're all the way at the top of the world. It's one of the coldest cities in the world, Yakutsk, Russia is. It's so far north. It's one of those like permafrost towns, like it's built on permafrost. And then we go from there to Grozny, which is in Chechnya, which is like one of the most war-torn countries in the world, and but there's a really tough tournament in Chechnya. It's like the president of Chechnya is a huge wrestling like booster, and he like there's a cash prize for winning. So both the tournaments are cash tournaments, and I'm excited to go wrestle with some of the best guys, and hopefully have a great tournament, win some money, great couple tournaments.
Okay, and what's something that you can really gain from and benefit from going overseas and going to Russia and training with these guys over there?
Well, it kind of goes without saying, the best guys that the U.S. have spent a considerable amount of time over in that part of the world wrestling. Some more than others. Dave Schultz spent a ton of time over there and learning from the best wrestlers in the world. We have some of the best wrestlers in the world in the United States, and we showed that this year at the Olympics, which was awesome to see and exciting. But for myself in my career, wrestling that European style, and it's a different feel, getting used to how those guys wrestle, and just getting used to the travel. We're 14 time zones away in Yakutsk, which is, just getting used to that, and then being able to get down to weight and compete. All those things are really important to becoming the best wrestler in the world, and that's my goal this year. My goal is to have a great run through these tours, and then in the U.S. wrestle some tournaments, get ready for the U.S. Nationals, and make the national team, and hopefully that #1 spot and go to the World Championships.
Well, and your first overseas trip was to Ukraine.
Yes.
Just earlier this year. What was something maybe eye-opening about that experience for you?
I guess there are a couple different things. Culturally, it's just a different culture. Like the way people live over there is crazy. It makes you pretty proud to be an American. And then wrestling-wise, I think I gave those guys a lot of respect that I shouldn't have. The fact of the matter is most of those guys, I'm quite a bit bigger than and stronger than at my weight, and they're tricky. They're good at their tricks. They're good at being deceptive with different techniques. But at the end of the day, wrestling a straight up get in your face style, bang on the head, get into the legs, scoring is going to win, and not trying to play this chess match out there. I think my roommate Andrew Howe last year, going and wrestling with him and watching him compete, he didn't give those guys any respect. He went out there and got his hands on them, beat them up, and scored points and won matches. He beat some of the best guys in the world, just doing that, doing what he set out to do, and that I learned a lot from that. It's not all about trying to be tricky and stuff, because that's when I try to play that game, and if you try and play that game, that's their game. You're going to get beat at that every time. So I'm excited to go out there and wrestle my style, and hopefully just have a lot of fun in the process. And
do you think it's good for you going on this trip early in the season? You kind of went. Oh, you had a few tournaments before you went to Ukraine last year. Do you think it's good to get this experience kind of early in your season, and then have that carry into some of these national tournaments?
I think so, for sure. Especially this year. Last year, I was kind of healing up for some injury before, and it was kind of like getting my feet wet. And now, I've had some summertime off. I'm excited. I'm hungry to train. I'm hungry, to wrestle, and that's what we're going to be doing. It's 3 weeks overseas, and it's experiencing, going over to Ukraine and stuff is big too. Just going and getting in the in that overseas environment, and then having not be the first time I'm going to like 2 really tough tournaments in Russia. The first one isn't as tough as the one in Chechnya, but I think that'd be a little bit overwhelming to just step in, go overseas to like 2 of the toughest tournaments in Russia. I think it's good to have that experience, and we're ready to go early this year.
Okay, Ty, good luck, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you.